Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. Today we have with us Clare Ford. Clare is a New Earth education and teen empowerment coach dedicated to inspiring our next generation. And this is such an important topic to be bringing out to the forefront because really we're getting into the era when we're looking at our own lives and thinking, hey, I can do something new, but we really still, our kids may be becoming teenagers and looking at what the rest of their lives are going to look like at a time when we're looking at our lives going, okay, what's next for me? Our kids don't need me anymore, or my kids don't need me anymore. But they really do need you. Probably when they're teenagers, it's the time when they need you the most. So welcome to the show, Clare. Tell us your story, how you got started in all of this, and go ahead.
Thank you so much, Jill. It is lovely to be here. It's a real pleasure to be here talking to you from across the pond, as we say, over here in the UK. So yes, first and foremost, I think, what qualifies me to have this conversation is the fact that I, like you, am a parent of older children now. I call them my man boys. They're both at university. They're big and hairy with, deep voices. But lovely boys. And so, gosh, like a lot of people who'll be listening, we've been through our ups and downs, those prepubescent years, the tweens, the teens, and we've had some difficult times. And it was actually responding to those crises that I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my parenting. I learned a lot about my teaching. And I decided that I needed to do something to really help teens navigate the landscape that they're in now. Prior to COVID, I truly believe that there was already a pandemic in teen mental health anyway.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think that the pandemic just highlighted that to parents even more. And now, since the pandemic, I really don't feel we've gone back to a normal at all. There are lots of young people, my sons included, who missed out on crucial growing up experiences, which they couldn't have because of lockdown. And so you now have, and this is my situation too, young people at university who are 17, 18, 19, who didn't get those experiences when they were 14 or 15 to know how to navigate. They're not savvy, right? They're not like worldly wise, like we would have been sneaking out at 14 or having your first cigarette or something like that. Like they didn't get to do anything. They didn't get to work. They didn't even get to mow lawns or babysit or anything, right? And so it's very strange that they've been popped out into the world and are expected by us adults to be able to navigate and get on with that. And actually, they're really a little bit lost. They are lost. And so I am their guide, right? I'm their guide to help them develop this life book, this manual, which will help them navigate emotionally, financially, spiritually, mentally, and of course, to succeed academically. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm doing what I'm doing.
Are you a coach for the parents, the teens, or the both? How does that work?
So yeah, so I started off coaching both. I do feel that parents could benefit from coaching, especially as the teenagers become more self-aware or more open to different kinds of conscious conversations. If the parents are shutting them down and aren't on the same page, that can, of course, cause situations. But what I'm currently doing is I coach the teens, and I have some coaches who coach parents who coach the parents alongside. So yes, it is like a two-pronged approach, but my passion and gifts and talents are working with young people.
So I know you were talking about the suicide rates, which are kind of off the charts these days, and they were before the pandemic also. I mean, it's just crazy the impact that the internet has been great in some ways, but I think all of this alternate living, I'll call it. And I don't think it's just the internet, it's gaming specifically on the internet that has drawn people into living in an alternate universe. And they struggle when it comes to having real personal relationships or dealing with the reality that they've created for themselves in the more physical aspects of the world. So you want to talk about how important it is to incorporate the emotional well-being
Yeah,
into the personal development of these kids, and
yeah,
this really actually starts when they're pretty young.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Gosh, there's a lot I could say about that. So one of the things just to share with people that happened to us as a family is that my son's best friend committed suicide when he was 15. And that shocked our community. That obviously shocked our family, shocked, the school community. It had a big impact, which I think my son hasn't properly recovered from. He literally saw him 2 days before he went, and he may have even been one of the last people to see him. And even on his old phone and things like that, he had pictures of his friend, and he didn't want to change his phone because of those kinds of things. And so this really shook our world. And this is why I set up Switched On, because what I realized was that the education system was failing our young people, and they were switched off. They were disengaged. Like you're saying, their reality didn't match what they wanted it to be. And they couldn't navigate through that. They felt isolated, and one of the reasons I think that Alex's friend did commit suicide was because he was an artist. He was a really beautiful soul. He was a gifted and talented creative. And in the grammar school system, which we have over here, which is, very competitive, for want of a better word, uh, that wasn't nurtured. That side of him wasn't seen. And even by doing art, GCSE and things like that, it's still very, not paint by numbers, but it's like, do it in the style of this, do it in the style of that. He wasn't allowed to
Fit in the
explore,
box.
yeah, his own style. And my son is now an artist. And he really struggled with that too. And this is the failing. This is the failing, that we're not seeing the young people in front of us for who they really are, for what it is that they're here to do, for the gifts and talents and passions that they're bringing to the table, that they're bringing to humanity at this time. We need the creatives, we need the daydreamers, the thinkers, the artists, the musicians. We need these people to raise our vibration on a soul level, right? Because this is what speaks to us as a human race. These are things that everybody can understand on some level. And so it really broke my heart to witness that. And so yeah, this is why I set up Switched On, and this is why I realized that we have to put, we were doing it all wrong. We're looking, if people who are listening, if you imagine like a pyramid, or if you imagine an iceberg, and at the tip of the iceberg is the academic success. It's the grade A's, it's the, coming top in swimming, it's the horse riding, it's the ballet, it's all the stuff that we as parents go, oh, my child is excelling, and we pat ourselves on the back. Well done, me, for feeding and fueling my child's dreams to be the best ballet dancer. They might hate ballet, like, have we actually stopped to ask them, right? Anyway, what we see is that. But what needs to happen underneath the surface for that to be healthy is that we have to have the personal and spiritual development, and we have to have the emotional well-being. We have to develop emotional literacy further in our young people. And so I decided to do that here at Switched On by saying, our children will be educated, tick, we want that, but actually it's not enough. They need to be empowered and they need to be elevated to step into their true mission, their true soul mission of who they're here to be. And that is
Being
where
able to
many of
figure
us
out
have
how
fallen
that
down.
is,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
it looks for them. And it's not
yes,
always obvious. I was
no,
telling you, I've had 5 children, and I know each one of them is gifted differently, and each one of them has certain strengths and weaknesses. And, further education isn't always the best route for everyone. And being able to help them develop ideas about where they can take their superpowers, because I believe everybody has a superpower. It's not readily apparent sometimes when they're really young. You have to wait for them and watch and let them figure it out,
well, this
and
was one
then
of the
lean into it.
Yeah, this was one of the gifts of the pandemic, right? Which I thought was fabulous, in the home education community, which I set up over that time. I was saying to parents, let your child be bored. Don't keep giving them things to do. Let them be bored. Because when our children are bored, or our teenagers are bored, that's when they start getting these whispers from their soul to tell them what they want to do. And this is where we suddenly saw amazing, incredible artists or bakers or musicians, hitting YouTube videos by storm, going viral with the things that they created. And people are like, what? They're only such and such an age and they've already done this. Well, yes, because they're expressing their soul. They don't have to be fit into the box to do something which they don't want to do. They've got the freedom to explore. And as a result, I was able to work with young people and get them to do incredible things like become a published author in a week, right? This is something that we do here. We break time barriers. We break through the ceiling that parents are putting on their children of expecting what they can do. We need to break through that and allow them to surprise and delight us with what they actually can do.
And they have so many talents. And when you let them get bored, but you show them how to find information, then they'll and you open the door and say, go research that. That's an interesting question. Teaching them how to ask questions and then find the answers for themselves. They could come to you and say, what do you think I should do? And you say, well, I don't know. What do you want to do? And let them explore what they want to do rather than what you think they should do.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely that, Jill. And this is what makes our philosophy here not unique in a sense, but it makes it work. Because I say I explain to parents, the learning that the children do has to be relevant, meaningful, and fun. It has to be relevant. So the reason that children are switched off education is because they're sitting in school and they're thinking, well, how is this relevant to me? Why do I need to know what a simultaneous equation is? And I say, I don't know. I've not used a simultaneous equation for 30 years. I don't know why you need to learn a simultaneous equation, right? So it might be relevant to some people, but it's not relevant to everybody. And this is the thing, it's making the learning relevant to them, to their experience as right now, and meaningful to them in such a way that they then want to go and explore. And this is why curiosity is such a crucial thing.
Yeah, if you do nothing else, Encourage curiosity in your children about everything. And don't
Yeah.
ever tell them they're wrong. That there is no such thing as right and wrong. There's just a different perspective. You might not
I
agree with that perspective, but man, you can learn a lot just from acknowledging that it exists.
Yes. And that we don't need to have all the answers as parents as well. We need to like step away from our egos and just be, do you know what? I don't know the answer to that. Like I used to set like a little mini task, a challenge for people, and I would call it the window game, right? The window game. People are like, what can I do with my child? You know, like play the window game. All it is you sit side by side and you just look out of your window. It doesn't matter if you're in a flat or if you're in a mansion, right? You look out of the window and you wait to see what it is you begin observing, right? And even if all you can see is a cloudy sky, you can start to ask questions. Why are there grey clouds in the sky? Right? Why are some of the clouds moving and some of the clouds aren't? Right? Why is the bird flying that way and not the other way? And all of this leads you to understand about the real natural world around you, just by asking curious questions, by looking outside a window. And people are like, I never thought to do that. And it's like, how can you not ask questions about what's outside your window? But this is it. We've been kind of dumbed down as a species and stopped from asking questions. And I think that, you know, critical thinking, creativity, and curiosity, and you can speak into this, Jill, because you've got young people in entrepreneurship and business. But I think that these are the key foundational soft skills. They're so crucial, though, which is going to make somebody successful or not. Because all the rest can be done on computers and AI and phones and Wikipedia and everything else. You don't actually need to retain knowledge. You can ask a sensible question and get the knowledge. But it's the critical thinking. Is that knowledge accurate? Can I ask something else? Where else can I go? Who else can I ask? What else could I look at? Right? Which is going to then really elevate that person in a working environment.
And all of those things that you just stated are asking questions. Teaching your child how to ask the right questions is like the key to everything, as far as I'm concerned with education. As long as you know how to ask the right questions. And this leads into something else that we're going to talk about, which is how you can switch your children back onto reading and writing. Help them elevate their vocabulary. If you have a good vocabulary, the better your vocabulary is, the bigger your thoughts can be. And that was a stunning revelation to me many years ago. So I always worked on helping my kids really develop expansive vocabularies. I mean, we would look up words, word of the day, and I still use some of the words that my kids found, and I'd let them find them and tell me what they meant, and then we'd go around looking to incorporate that word into our vocabulary. When Fauci first came out, I didn't want to call him evil, so I looked up a new word for him. So I will always remember him as Fascinoris Fauci.
Oh,
It's another word for evil, but most people don't know it. And it just is like a bigger, I had a couple other words that came up, but that was the one that stuck with me. But if you give your children the chance to explore words and what words mean, because words all have meanings, specific meanings, and then it gets to be a game, and it gets your life gets much richer because you have words to describe your thoughts, and it allows your thoughts to expand. So what are your thoughts about reading and writing? And
oh my gosh, well, the thing is, the reason that I am so passionate about writing, you know, speaks into what you're saying, Jill, because I know, as you know, as an energy healer, as somebody who is interested in a life of abundance, that our thoughts create the world that we live in. And we have to be masterful of our thoughts. And in order to manage our thoughts, first of all, we've got to get quiet enough to hear them. But when we hear the tiny little voice that we you know, and we listen carefully, we need to be very specific about, okay, that's a good thought, that's not such a good thought, that's somebody else's thought, right? Now, in order to get children to that stage, or teenagers to that stage, they first of all have to be mindful of their words. They have to be mindful of the fact that their thoughts are made up of words, and that their words are their limited vocabulary. And as you say, if they don't have an extensive vocabulary, they can't express their thoughts as words. And if they can't express their thoughts as words, they can't choose better, higher level thoughts. And then they can't create a life that they desire. So it all starts with words. Like it says in the Bible, it starts with the word, right? Words are powerful. And so for me, getting young people to express themselves through language is the first step to really elevating them into unlocking their superpowers.
Oh my God, you just reminded me of something. It's a Bible verse I knew. It was in the beginning was the word was God, and the word was with God.
Yes.
And everything that is was created through that, through the word. And that just speaks to the idea that, and God spoke the world into existence. He created the reality. And if we are all God, and I do believe we are all part of God, then we have that power, but it's the power through words. Words, they're vibrations, they create things, and they really do. Our thoughts become our actions, and our actions become what we manifest. And if you speak, and never, ever speak negatively over your children, ever, because it's like cursing them. It is actually cursing them. You always want to be blessing your children. They may do things that irritate the crap out of you, but don't comment on it. Just really focus on the things that they're doing well, and you'll get more of that. It's the whole gratitude thing, you know. What you focus on is what you perceive in your reality. It's because it's what you bring more of into your reality.
Exactly. And so this negative mind chatter, this negative self-belief that so many teenagers have, you know, comparisonitis, Instagram picture perfect, all of this rubbish, like it's really affecting them. They say, you know, I'm not big enough, I'm not clever enough, I'm not small enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not enough. And they say this long enough, and they're shriveling, their soul is shriveling. And so we have to give them the tools to catch this. You know, and we all have to do this. We all have to work on this. But if we can catch children younger, where they go, oh, that's not a helpful thought. Let me see if I can flip it. And, you know, we give positive affirmations, we give children and teens tools on how to do all of this, you know, and as you said, you know, meditation, journaling, all of these kinds of techniques, you know, kids can be brilliant at. It doesn't have to just be adults that do these things. And so it's my vision that these young people who will grow up to be our next leaders will be able to lead with compassion, will be able to lead with love, will be able to lead because they understand who they really are, and they're putting the right words out there, vibrating at the right rate to elevate everybody. And this will really be the new world order. This will be the thing.
We call it the you world order around here.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why we started this podcast. It's to elevate everybody together. And we don't have to compete with each other. There's enough to go around. We need to appreciate the uniqueness of everyone and not try to shove everyone into the same, in between the same lines. It goes to what you were saying earlier about, you know, trying to give kids art, but you have to do art this way. Art by definition isn't done this way. It's done however, how you want to do it. And
my son used to get so cross. He said, but Mom, why am I doing this? Picasso's already done Picasso. He said, I'm Alex Ford. I want to do Alex Ford. I'm not doing Alex Ford doing Picasso. What is that?
It's Nobody
exactly.
told Picasso he had to do what he was doing.
No, nobody told Picasso he had to do Monet. Can you imagine?
Yeah. No, he wanted to do something different.
Exactly, exactly.
I do have a tip for the listeners, and we found this really helpful in our house, and it's from Marissa Pierce, and it's
Mhm.
right on your bathroom mirror. We started with I am enough. I wrote it on the bathroom mirror. And then people came along and took the erasable marker, because you can use erasable markers on your mirrors. And they wrote other comments, other affirmations. So every time somebody went to the bathroom, they were getting the affirmation, and they were
Beautiful.
seeing it and thinking about it. It's an easy thing to do, but sometimes we get caught in our heads thinking about things that don't serve us. And when you just, glance at something that's empowering like that, it can be I am enough, I am significant, I have great ideas, I'm powerful, I'm strong, whatever you want to put up there, and it can change every day, every week, once a month. I don't
I
care.
love
It's your
that.
house, your mirror, you do what you want. But having those kinds of reminders when you're, it's someplace where you're going to go often, it,
Mm.
it's super helpful in little shifts in your thinking.
Yes. And what's beautiful is that you've gifted that to somebody else in your family. You
Mhm.
see, with our self-sabotage, we could say, right, this is the statement that I need. And we're standing there looking at that statement. And then your subconscious is like, nah, you don't really believe that, right? Like you're just saying that because you're doing, positive affirmations for the law of attraction on a mental level. That's what you're learning. But your subconscious is going, no, you're not. Who are you trying to kid, right? But when
Mhm.
you've gifted that to somebody else and they're walking into their bathroom and going out and, oh, I wouldn't have thought to put that for me. And it makes you stop and think,
Mhm.
right? And one of the ways that I like to get our brains working around affirmations, rather than just a statement like that, is for me, I found it to be even more powerful for me and the students, is to do how come in the front.
Yes,
How
asking
come
questions.
I'm enough? Because
It
then
gives
your
makes your
brain is trying
brain.
to solve the problem, right? Rather
Yep.
than going, I'm enough. No, you're not. You don't really believe that. Go, well, how come I'm enough? And then your brain starts finding reasons why you are. How come I'm so powerful? How come I'm surrounded by love, right?
Yep.
How come I'm always supported? Are you? Do you think you are? Oh, actually, there was a time when you were, right? And you start to find evidence, and then you have to
Yes.
believe it.
Yes. Yeah. Your brain has to believe it more than anything else.
Yeah,
It doesn't even
yeah,
have to be a conscious effort. It just starts happening.
yeah, exactly. So that's a good little tip. Like a how come question
Mhm.
is a good tip. And my other little tip with questions is my magic words, my 4-letter word. Don't worry. So don't worry. And my 4-letter word is else. So important. So when somebody's stuck or whatever, and they're like, oh right, done everything, can't do this anymore. If you ask not just what, but what else, how else can I do this? Where else can I go? It implies you've already made some effort, but there's still a little bit more effort to go, which you haven't necessarily thought of. And so then we're tapping into this kind of universal collective mind, right? And thinking, well, I haven't worked this out, but where else could I go? Who else has done it? Where else have I seen this? Right? And again, it just elevates the way that we ask better questions.
Yes. And it really does come back to asking the better questions, having the good vocabulary and asking better questions.
Yeah.
So, what do you do if your kids aren't very confident learners?
Well, we need to get to the reason of why they're not. And normally they're switched off, and it boils down to, I can have a long conversation, but if I just take us right to the conclusion, it boils down to really just a couple of things that they're questions, and I can give an example of a story if we've got time.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll give the story first. So one of my students prior to COVID was coming to my house, you know, before we couldn't do that anymore. And he was like a really quirky boy. I love working with like quirky kids. And but he was revising for what we have, the 11 plus over here. It's a bit like your SATs, but for younger children. And it was a really hard exam. So it was very, you know, structured. And one day he came in and he was all slouching and moody, like boys get, right? I was like, oh my goodness, like what's happened to you? Why are you like this in this funk, you know? And he was like, oh, I asked my teacher a question today, but she didn't answer me. And I'm like, okay. So, well, you know, there are 29 other people there, and maybe you were lining up to go out or something. She might not have had time, or maybe she didn't know the answer. I was kind of making a few excuses. I've been a teacher in that position, so we're not blaming or shaming teachers. So I asked him, well, what question did you ask? You know, and he said that he wanted to know about the Big Bang Theory. Well, of course, this poor teacher's like, you know, what? Right. So they were probably in an RE lesson, and he was thinking, I'm not sure about this business because I've heard about the Big Bang Theory. And so he was asking about that. And I said, do you know what? Harvey, his name was. I said, that is a brilliant question. I said, well, we're doing information writing for our module. Why don't you do your project on how the world began? Fantastic, right? Like you said, get them to explore and research and all of that.
Yeah.
So brilliant. That's what he was going to do. Anyway, came back the following week. I was all excited. I was ready, right? I was ready for Harvey and his how the world began theory. So we sat down. I'm like, right, what do you want to know? And oh my gosh, Jill, this literally breaks my heart. And he was like, nothing. What do you mean you don't want to know anything? But we were doing, you know, the Big Bang Theory and how the world started. No, I don't really want to know anything. I said, well, we're doing information writing, so we need to write some information. You know, what else are you interested in? Oh, nothing really, he said. So what do you mean you're not interested in anything? Well, kind of know everything already. And I was like, oh my gosh. In that short space of time, that student went from being switched on to switched off.
Yep.
And this is what happens when you say, you know, why isn't my child confident? They just can't be bothered anymore, because somewhere along the line, through parent, teacher, adult interaction, peer interaction, or something, they have not been seen, heard, or validated. That is what's happened. That's the bottom line. And I know I've done this hand on heart as a parent. You know, you get your kids home, you're busy, you're unloading the dishwasher, you're cooking the tea, you're packing the book bags, you're doing all 100 things, and they're blah, 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 about their day and going on and on and on about this random stuff. You're not listening. And that's the worst thing we can do. And it's better to say to them, I am not listening to you because I'm doing 100 things. Can we just have our tea? And then you can tell me all about your day. Right? It's better to say that honestly than pretend you're listening, giving them half an ear and be like, yeah, yeah, whatever, yeah, right? And then we wonder why, when we say, put your hand up if you know the answer, they don't bother to put their hand up. Well, you're not going to listen to me anyway.
Yep.
So
Or
that's
they've been told they're wrong. Nope, you're wrong.
They've been laughed at, or they've been told they're stupid. It's a silly idea. What are you thinking? Are you crazy? All these kinds of things. I used to get told off for daydreaming too much. But daydreams are where the ideas come from.
Where the
right?
magic happens.
That's right. That's where the visionaries live. So yeah, don't tell a child off for daydreaming. They're coming up with amazing things. So yeah, that's when they're unconfident. That's why they've somewhere down the line, they've been not heard, not seen, not validated for who they are. And so they just start to switch off. So it's about creating a positive learning environment where they are encouraged to put their hand up, to speak out, to say what's on their mind, to test things out, to learn about growth mindset skills where it's okay to make a mistake. We're failing forwards together. It's a shoulder to shoulder learning approach. I'm learning while you're learning. I'm learning from you, you're learning from me, right? It's this kind of environment which creates then the confidence to have things.
For sure. So how does your coaching look? Is it one-on-one? Is it group?
So we have hybrids. I do some one-on-one coaching, and we also have group coaching. We have small groups, we have bigger groups, we have people who are mixed abilities, mixed ages, neurodiversity. We have some groups who are older children, the teens, some groups who are the younger children. It's not so much about their ability, like they're not according to ability or anything like that, because I've had, 9-year-olds who can outstrip 12-year-olds. So the age isn't really the thing, right? It's more about their attitude to learning. So I only work with students who want to be switched on learners. They might not come switched on to start with, but they know they've got that something inside them that they want to be lit up again as a learner. And so it's about their coachability rather than their ability. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. So you're not just looking for people with high IQs, you're looking for people that are out there wanting to explore things in life, but aren't really the traditional go to school student where you're going to school and you're just getting the information you need to pass the test.
I have
You
some
want,
children, I have some children like that. I mean, of course, I can help those children, and but what I make sure that I'm doing is I'm helping them emotionally. I'm giving them tools. I'm giving
yeah,
them tools to manage their stress and anxiety because of these tests coming up. I'm keeping them grounded, right? I'm
Mhm.
holding the space for them, and I'm giving them, of course, strategies and techniques, timing, timing the test, all of that kind of stuff too. But yeah, just making sure that they're okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I know that you offer a triumphant student toolkit, and
Yes.
we will put the link to that. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So in the Triumphant Student Toolkit, so the reason I created this was because I wanted parents to have something that they could refer to, which would help make school that little bit easier. Not everybody has the opportunity to homeschool their child, and school refusal is on the up. As we said, the stress and anxiety is increasing, and sometimes people don't have the language to handle these big emotions. So one of the things that I talk about in there is an ultimate guide to emotional mastery, right? Helping child handle their big emotions, which then unlocks the confidence that we were mentioning, and helps them build up some resilience as well, that they know that not every day is going to necessarily be a good day, right? And that's okay. With the confidence, it's about equipping them with tools to conquer self-doubt and embrace those new experiences. Maybe giving parents the opportunity to talk them through what their first day in secondary school is going to be like, or what it's going to be like on the morning when they're going to their GCSE exams, whatever it is. Like, feel into that, like future pace, right? So we do, I don't call it timeline collapse, but that's basically what it is. Plot them into the future, let them feel the emotions, and then think, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad, I can handle this. Managing their time, oh my gosh, so that they're more productive, putting away the things that aren't serving them, charging their phone downstairs, this kind of thing. Just being organized, getting their backpack ready. There's some checklists in there for making sure that they've got the right things that they need to get to school. Because I remember, oh my gosh, trying to get my kids off to school in the morning was just crazy at one point, when I think I had 16-year-old and a 14-year-old. And then also giving them some tools to elevate them as a learner, to take some responsibility for their homework and things like that. So making sure they complete their homework, making sure that they know when to hand things in, like some really practical tools, because this is what people are struggling with, on a day-to-day basis. Get up, getting them up, getting them out, getting them ready, like go to school, do the things you need, come home, do the things you need. Oh, and then we can all just relax. And that can be really hard. And you know that, having had 5 children, some in school, some not in school, it must have been crazy at times. So that is what I'm hoping the Triumphant Student Toolkit provides for parents and their children.
That sounds like an awesome toolkit. So how can people get in touch with you?
So the easiest way is, obviously I'm on social media, so they can look up Clare Ford. It's CLARE, no I. But also my website is switchedonglobal.com. If they go on there, there is a way for people to get in touch with me. There's also another freebie that they can access on there. And there's like a little form if anybody's got any questions, they can fill that in. My DMs are always open, and I'm always happy to have a conversation with parents who want their kids to be, you know, switched on learners. So yeah, switchedonglobal.com, or just find me on social media, Clare Ford.
Perfect. So what's the one thing that you hope the audience takes away from our conversation today? We've covered so much.
I know. It's so difficult to kind of put it in a nutshell, but, you know, to quote one of my favorite like educators ever, you know, Einstein, I think it was him who said, you know, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its life believing it's stupid. And this is the whole point. We have to see the child who is in front of us for who they are, not for who we want them to be.
Yes, we'll leave it with that. That's so great. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.